Another day, another dollar, another day of just living life and seeing what's going on with this team and seeing what other BS we're going to hear every single day, you know? Just want to mention this, okay? I know all of us are frustrated. I know all of us. It's been Eagle on Eagle crime. Eagle fan on Eagle fan crime every single day. Really since this team lost to the 49ers. Not even just that, but get their asses kicked by the Cowboys, okay? I know it's been tough. I know a lot of things have been going on, and all I'm doing is reporting what I report, and that's it. I give my take on it. I know a lot of shit that you read is not true. A lot of shit that you read may not be the case. But I think at the end of the day, and I get it, there's a lot of people that disagree with me. I totally get it. Some people hate my take. Some people don't. I'm not always right. I'm not always wrong, but I'm definitely not always right. Okay. The one thing we can all agree with that we want this to get better. And, between everything that's going on right now, it's been Eagle fans fighting with Eagle fans every single day. And I see the comments, and I respect everybody that thinks I'm wrong. I respect everybody. Look, if we all agreed on the same things nonstop every day, shit would get boring. I'd like to see from someone else's point of view, kind of like someone's looking at things from a different lens, from a different point of view, a different perspective. It's always a great thing to see someone else's, point of view on things. And that's the great thing about having an opinion on everything. So, been tough. We're getting through it, and, we don't know what team we're going to see this week. I had to split up some videos because these videos would be over an hour, probably close to an hour and 30 minutes, 20 minutes, if I had everything together. So, just want to say that before anything. Secondly, BrianJohnson's press conference from the other day. And two players I definitely want to talk about that we drafted this past year. Good and bad things and some promise. So let's get into it all.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yeah, what is going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. I know it's been a rough week, and not knowing, we haven't really heard everything we wanted to hear this week. I haven't heard one thing I wanted to hear this week from the coaching staff, from, the players can only do so much. We'll get into that later on. BrianJohnson had some things to say about the team in general, and Nick didn't really help out with what he had to say. I'm really hoping that behind the scenes there's the total opposite is happening, because I really didn't like what I heard from Nick and from Brian. It's really nothing different. Now, BrianJohnson talks about the rest of the season, quote unquote. Our story isn't completely written yet. I think for us, we sit back 14 or 15 weeks in and know we still have a lot left to accomplish, and everything is right there in front of us. And I think I definitely agree on that. You shouldn't still be figuring things out by week 14, 15. There should be, you shouldn't be figuring anything out with the play calls, and you shouldn't be getting destroyed in 2 games. Look, you faced the best team in football against the 49ers. I get it, but for facing a rival, there was just, like I said, the players were flat, and the coaching staff, the way the game has played out, it's been almost the exact same thing we've been dealing with all year, except, our second halves have looked a lot better than any other quarter. But finally, everything has caught up to us. And yes, the Eagles control their own destiny right now. There's still 4 games on the schedule. We'll go over Seattle probably the next couple of days. Not much really to say, because I know what Seattle has, and can the Eagles actually beat them? You know what I mean? It's I kind of agree with Seth Joyner on not drinking the Kool-Aid of this team anymore. And I get why there are, fans that probably shouldn't drink the Kool-Aid, because you lose 2 games like this, it's a little alarming that you're getting your ass kicked so much and the team seems flat. And if the players are not bought in and they lose confidence because of this predictable shit we're doing on both sides of the football, it's a problem. And It's almost reminding me of like the Chip Kelly era a little bit, where like the scheme was over the players. Didn't matter what player we traded for, what great players we got rid of, or players that are producing somewhere else. The scheme, anybody could run this scheme, and this is my scheme, and that's not how it should go. We've already been through that situation once, and if you don't listen to your players and the coaches are like, we're going to figure this out, I got to see proof of that. And from what Nick said the other day, it seems like they're not fixing anything. I mean, pretty much Nick said, we're going to run it how we're going to run it. We're not going to stray away from what we're doing, and that's it, so just deal with it. Pretty much what we got the other day from him. So, like I said, the Eagles definitely, and it's all, yeah, we're 10-3, and that's all I hear in the comment section. We're 10-3, we're 10-3. It's like, okay, well, we're 10-3, but they could be 10-4, they could be 10-5, they could be 10-6, and they could be 10-7. Okay, very easily. The turnaround could happen very, very easily. The Eagles have never peaked this year. Never have. The Eagles have never played 4 quarters of good football. Not perfect, but somewhat productive, where I could say they had a good game. Like nail biter after nail biter after nail biter after nail biter. No wonder the Eagles weren't getting respect. And teams don't get respected that way in today's day and age, of how you win games, and that's, the shitty part about it. BrianJohnson talked about the offense in general and saying we are getting down the field and getting scoring opportunities and just haven't finished. We've had first and goals from the 6 and had turnovers. We've had red zone opportunities ruined by penalties and forced to kick field goals. We just need to do a better job at finishing the drives. I don't want BrianJohnson to blame the players. And yes, if you fumble 3 times in a game in enemy territory, it's not a great combination to have. Okay, you fumbled the ball 3 times. You had 1 from A.J. Brown, 1 from Devontae Smith, 1 from Jalen Hurts during the Cowboys game. I'm not going to go back too much during the season because that obviously what we looked like before and what we look now is not really that much different, but obviously the Eagles are playing a lot worse right now because it looks bad because the turnovers are a lot more now, and the Eagles can't even score a touchdown. Like they're clawing to score a touchdown. Like it's almost every time Jalen Hurts is passing the ball, I'm holding my breath. Not to say that he can't throw the ball, but there were some good throws in that Cowboys game, and Devontae Smith had a couple drops. A.J. Brown had a drop. There were some crucial drops as well. Every time I see Hurts extend plays, it makes me nervous. It just does. And obviously the route combinations, players are saying that routes aren't, they're taking too long to develop. Nothing's quick in this offense. There's no turn and throw. I mean, it's a robotic looking system that's just not working, and you're not running the ball. Simple as that. I mean, you're not doing the basic things that should get your offense going. Watching other offenses, I get jealous. Watching other defenses, I get jealous every single week because it's just really hard to watch that the Eagles look the worst out of every team. They really got to get back on track. The one thing you don't do is blame the players. I'm not saying that BrianJohnson is doing that. I do agree you can't fumble the ball 3 times. I mean, does that make a difference in the game? Sure, it does. Does that mean the Eagles could win the game? They have a chance, but they could or they couldn't. I can't tell the future. I can't say that if they didn't fumble those 3 times, and if they didn't call that holding call, if they called that holding call by on Jalen Carter, and Josh Sweat was getting held all day, and I can go through what ifs, but I'm not that type of guy. I'm just not. But fumbling the ball is a different story. Yes, I think the Eagles would have had a better fighting chance, but would they have won the game? Were they good enough to win against Dallas? Were they good enough to win the last couple weeks? But we're just talking about really last week's game. The most recent game is in Dallas. Okay. Yeah, I mean, failed opportunities in the red zone. But, take that game away and look what they've done pretty much all the way to the 49ers game, okay, all year, okay? The coaching staff has got to take some blame. And I just feel like, I'm sorry, but what they're portraying right now is they're just taking last game, and then when they have the opportunity to blame it on the players, they're going to blame it on the players. Both schemes, offensively and defensively, are failing. Every position looks dull. Every position looks like there's a hole on it. I feel like we don't even have Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown at times. I feel like we don't have a good running back in DeAndre Swift at times because they don't use him. I feel like the scheme has affected these positions. It has affected our defense tremendously because we can't get pressure. We can't we can't hit home with the pass rush because the corners are off. We can't take away the first option because the corners are playing too far off. And how are you supposed to pay and how are you supposed to draft guys in the trenches? And how is Howie Roseman allowing this scheme to continue? And I'm hoping after this year that there is a really big change. Okay, this was Jonathan Gannon's defense going into this year. This wasn't Sean Desai's defense. Okay, this wasn't Sean Desai's defense. This was Gannon's defense. And Sean Desai was one of the candidates to run this defense. And obviously he doesn't do it well. And secondly, with Jonathan Gannon, as much as the Arizona Cardinals are bad right now, they know how to blitz. They know how to get after people, and I've seen it from the Cardinals defense a million times. Jim Schwartz, the Browns have one of the best defenses. They got a lot of injuries on that team right now, but look at the Browns. Jim Schwartz has really did a good. Eagles got rid of Jim Schwartz. I know there were some things that we didn't agree with Jim Schwartz, with Nate Gary and how he favored Derek Barnett so much. I understand there was some favoritism in that defense. I get it. But Jim Schwartz still, till this day, knows how to give pressure, and he creates ways to get pressure on quarterbacks. And still, he took a year off, a few years off, a couple years off, whatever, and came back and is coaching very well. Look at the players that the Eagles have gotten rid of, and look what they're doing. Alex Singleton is almost leading. Alex Singleton with the Broncos is leading the team in tackles. T.J. Edwards is balling out in Chicago right now. I mean, there's just weird shit going on where I feel like they give up on players. They give up on players to certain positions of need badly, way too easily. Where, I think you're missing, because the scheme is so passive defensively, I feel like a lot of these players are weak. I understand there's been a lot of Eagle fans talking about the Eagles played, 3 games, 3-4 games in 13 days, whatever it was. Like, yeah, there could be some tiredness involved with the whole team, and they could be fatigued out. They could be really tired. You played two teams that came off of 10 days of rest. I get it. But you shouldn't be showcasing that if you're tired, at least. I mean, I can't believe that much. I mean, that's just too overportioned for me to say that, because of that reason, the Eagles are fatigued and they're tired, that's the main reason that they're getting destroyed by by 2 teams the last couple weeks. So, and then offensively, I feel like it's weird. Like, there's talent. Like, there's talent everywhere. They're just not utilized. It's just a big problem. BrianJohnson, this offense, the defense, it's just a complete mess right now. BrianJohnson even talked about why are the wide receiver 3s really not getting involved. Because really, at the end of the day, guys, like, who's really getting involved at wide receiver 3? Quez Watkins just came back a couple weeks ago. Hasn't really done much of anything. He caught like maybe 1 or 2 passes already for this team. Zaccheaus, when given opportunity, fares very well. Obviously, the Bills' touchdown back of the end zone was fantastic. He didn't have a touchdown before that until, Tampa Bay, when Hurts was very patient in the pocket on 2 really good catches, 1 for a touchdown. I feel like the wide receiver 3s are just a waste right now. Like, we don't run anything quick on the inside. I don't know why we don't use outside guys on the inside. I don't know why we don't move Devontae Smith around sometimes. There are times where they should put him on the inside, maybe, like, kind of get some mismatches where the defense is, so they can't switch guys all the time when they get on field. I mean, you can really get some good mismatches, and they just don't do it. I feel like we're literally just... we can't stand in the middle of the field when it's wide open sometimes. Like, they want to just throw the go ball all the damn time and run the bubble screen and run inside zone a million times because that's the only run play that they know at this point. But, Quez Watkins is walking after this year. Like, what? I mean, he's been hurt he's been hurt twice this year. Twice, 3 times? I don't even remember, because he missed all of training camp, all of joint practices and preseason. So Quez just can't even stay healthy. He has no availability at this point. And Zaccheaus has just been a waste. Julio Jones is a waste. I mean, why did they even sign him? I mean, they're not even really giving him an opportunity since, like, the Miami game for the first game and Kelly Green's. What they've done with him. I mean, wide receiver 3 is one of the weakest positions. And this is what BrianJohnson had to say. He said, yeah, of course you want to get all 5 position players to contribute. Sometimes that shows up on the stat sheet. Sometimes it doesn't, but it's a balance when AJ and Devontae win so much and the ball comes out and gets to them. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, more should be involved at times where, yeah, I know that's your triple threat. Hurts, Devontae Smith, and obviously AJ Brown. You can't forget Dallas Goedert too, but they really didn't involve him that much this year, to be honest. Even before the injury, like, we didn't see much. Saw some things from Dallas Goedert, but not because of Dallas Goedert, because the way they run this offense, and they rather on a second, third, and short throw a bomb to AJ Brown or Devontae Smith down the field, where, stop making it hard on your offense, man. Just run the fucking ball and get the first down. Run the clock, take the lead. I mean, something. They feel like they have to throw a goal ball. Or on 3rd and long, they have to run with Jalen Hurts and almost get him fucking killed pretty much downfield. I mean, that's all I've seen all year. 3rd and long, screen pass that goes nowhere. Dump off pass goes nowhere. Backside motion from the running back on 3rd and long goes nowhere. I mean, it's vanilla, and it's just I don't see the creativity at all. I just don't. And I know he's gonna say the PR bullshit statement of, oh, we can only get the ball to so many guys and blah blah blah. Like, I get it, dude. Like, I get it. Like, but wide receiver 3, like, they just hate using it. They hate trying to get those guys open. I don't know why. I don't know how it's impossible. You got Goddard, you got all these guys on the field, and you literally can't. It's a creativity. It's creating plays to get certain guys open. There's an issue with route combinations, an issue with stretching out a defense. I mean, if you're not running the ball, you're not gonna get wide receiver 3s involved, because there's nothing to be afraid of with this offense. Pressure Hurts and you win the game. I mean, that's it. You could blitz Hurts probably 3 downs in a row and win the whole series, because Hurts can't throw the ball to these guys in these long route combinations running down the field. We've seen Jalen Hurts have over 10 seconds of protection, pretty damn much a lot of times, and he's waiting, and then he just has to bail out because he has no chance. And then because when these plays come back later on in either other games or later in the games, as soon as Hurts senses any type of pressure, he just bails out when a guy's wide open, because he just doesn't trust these guys getting open, not because of the players, because of what routes, like the route combinations they have these wide receivers going on, that take forever to develop. And I'm sitting here like, dude, like, what's this route? Like, why does every route have to be over 10 yards? Like, seriously. Why does every route have to be 10 to 25 yards? Like, we have to, you know what I mean? And by that time, it's just, you're not going to get any productivity in that department. And, this is the most PR thing he could say. Oh, there's only so many guys you get the ball to. I get it. Like, I totally understand that 100%. But, wide receiver 3 is not a big position. You really have to, like, next year, like, getting a third wide receiver in the slot, like a speedy type guy, is really not hard to get. So I don't think this is more of a drafting thing next year. These guys are not really hard to get, to be honest. They're really not. Even if Quez walks, not going to care. Some other guys, Zacchaeus will walk, not going to care unless they bring somebody back. But this depends on what happens the rest of the season, how everything looks. So that's the wide receiver 3. Jordan Mailata had some things to say, obviously, about the emotion of the locker room, and Brandon Graham and Jalen Hurts broke the team down. Brandon Graham had a lot to say behind the scenes, and a lot to say about sticking together through adversity and finishing this whole thing strong. Look, at the end of the day, I'm glad the players are not giving up, or there's no reports of, oh, this player said fuck this team, or like stuff like that. Like, there are players that will just give up on the team and will like say like, yo, like this, I hate this shit. Like, you see like Devontae Adams, like there's players around the league that like open their mouth and say some shit that's like, wow, but the Eagles are very lucky right now. The front office to the coaching staff, they're very lucky that this team hasn't like bailed out. I mean, look, these guys are getting paid. They have to play every week, but do they have to play their hardest? No. They have the choice. If the only way to change the scheme on both sides to make the play calling better, if it's to kind of send a message that, guys, like, this isn't working, and who knows? I mean, after the Seattle game, if they lose that game or get their ass kicked again, it's going to be a problem. I mean, they can't even score in the first half. I mean, they can't even finish a drive right now the last couple weeks. I mean, it's pretty bad. You can have all this emotion with all these players, and, like, I mean, at the end of the day, they got to play football. Like, they can have the best mindset going into a football game. But once shit starts going wrong, it's on the coaches. It doesn't matter what the players say. Yeah, it matters, but it matters to a certain extent. Like, they still got to play a game. Like, oh yeah, Brandon Graham just rallied the team. Now we're definitely going to win this game. No, it's more than that, and it's disgusting that, you know, these coaches apparently haven't learned from what we're reading. That's what we're reading right now. That's what we're hearing right now. But will it change? I don't know. You know, there's two players I definitely want to talk about. You know, maybe some good news and some, you know, good promising news going forward. I think the two players we got to talk about, one, I think Sidney Brown is definitely somebody to talk about here. Now, Sidney Brown, I think, is a player for this defense that could play multiple positions. Could be your Malcolm Jenkins piece that could play nickel corner, that could play safety. Obviously, with nickel corner is a big problem now because, unfortunately, Avonte Maddox has been a big liability and got hurt, you know, 4 times in 2 years, in 2 seasons. And there's actually a good chance he can come back during the playoffs, which is kind of insane, but we'll see what happens later on. Before we even start talking about playoffs. And, you know, Zach McPherson ended up getting hurt. So drafting Sidney Brown, I think he's done a good job. Even like against the 49ers, he had like a tackle for loss in the backfield at nickel, and he played really good, and then they took him out of the game for some weird reason. He goes into Dallas as a safety. Obviously, Justin Evans is out for the rest of the year because that guy just couldn't stay healthy. He had a knee problem. He was on the active window for the Eagles like a week and a half ago, and then I don't know what happened. I guess he just couldn't get through his injury. Maybe he re-injured himself. I don't know. They put him on IR for the rest of the year. He's out for the rest of the season. But Sidney Brown, I think he's very versatile. I think they just have to work with him more. I think they just have to cross-train him to multiple positions because I think the one thing the Eagles have been missing from this defense since Malcolm's been gone, since, you know, even Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was the biggest loss of the offseason. I think they've really missed having that hybrid-type guy in the defense, and he makes a huge difference. That potential big reception to CeeDee Lamb, now I know CeeDee Lamb dropped it on the left sideline, but you know, Sidney Brown, I mean, he can cover ground, man. I mean, he's got some athletic ability. He can cover ground. I mean, CeeDee Lamb already won the route, and then Sidney Brown comes out of nowhere with his speed, gets his, you know, kind of gets in the way of CeeDee Lamb a little bit, you know, kind of just get him flustered where he loses some eye contact on the ball and then drops it. You know what I mean? So Sidney Brown plays with a lot of heart. I think one of the two players on this defense that really gives up his body for the game. And I have to respect that because the pattying tackling has been, because the scheme is so what it is, when you're not aggressive in a scheme, like this passive scheme that we're playing, it doesn't make guys more aggressive. It makes them more passive. It makes them just want to push them out of bounds. It makes them want to be little fucking fairies walking around pushing people. I mean, that's what it looks like. Sidney Brown's got a bright future for this team. There's no doubt. And hopefully the Eagles don't fucking ruin him. I mean, that's all I got to say. There's a lot of flash, and man, I like him at safety. I like him more at safety than nickel because I think at safety he can cover that back end really well. But not even just that, but coming up for tackles if running backs, tight ends get to the second level. You know, I know he's undersized a little bit. I know bigger tight ends can get the pass, you know, get the catch on him. I think he had a hard time with Ferguson. I mean, there's a size difference there, so it was really hard last week. When it comes to just making tackles upfield, man, he comes down and lays the wood on somebody. Pause, but you know what I mean. There's a lot of promise here, and I think Sidney Brown is elevating himself every week. But he's a big hybrid cross-trained prospect for the offseason next year to even play more positions. God forbid you have an injury and you got to move him, and knows how to play, and the Eagles don't miss a beat on defense. So Sidney Brown's been really showing out a lot to me, at least, which I really have liked. Now, we're going to go the total opposite of good to bad, but not really bad. But I don't think the Eagles have really given him much of a chance. Maybe as of recent, he's getting more reps, but Nolan Smith, obviously a first-round pick. You know, I feel like this is another cross-trained type candidate. I think he's got to bulk up a little bit more. We have to remember, too, from the offseason, at least from training camp into the regular season, I know Nolan Smith had that neck injury, or he had some type of injury, so that definitely affected him. Played purely on special teams. The Eagles had him listed earlier on the depth chart as a Sam linebacker, which he barely even played that at times. I think going to next year, I don't know. He's not going to do much the rest of this year. He's got 1 sack. He's got a few tackles, barely even that. I mean, he's not doing much. There's nothing really. Sean Desai, maybe 5-6 weeks ago, was telling the media, oh, why is Nolan Smith not getting more reps? Oh, well, there's only so, the regular PR statement they give everybody. Every other time you talk about a player not producing because this is a first-round pick. You can't fuck around with this. You can't sit a guy out. You can't give anybody else more play. This guy they need to throw him in as much as possible, get him acclimated and get him tired and just literally push him. They got to push him. Same thing when Josh Sweat got here as a 4th-round pick from Florida State. They played the crap out of him. They pushed him to the limit, and look what the type of player he is right now. You got to do that. I don't think Nolan Smith has been pushed, this season, and he's getting a little bit more reps now. Derek Barnett is gone. I think he's with the Texans now. So, I mean, at this point, this is a first-round pick that can't be ignored, and Desai has ignored him for a while. And as of recent for the last few weeks, I guess he's got some more playing time, but I think he's a big cross. I think because your linebacker spot and Nakobe Dean is still out at this point, and you're still trying to figure things out because of the future of Leonard, Shaq Leonard, and the future of, Zach Cunningham, these are guys that have 1-year deals right now. Nakobe Dean's the only one. Christian Ellis is gone. He got waived. I mean, there's nobody left. I mean, I don't know why they even waived Christian Ellis. There wasn't anybody else you can get rid of. Like, you're getting rid of not only, if you can't play a position on defense, you're a special teams ace. If you're playing special teams for the Eagles during the season, you're a good player for the special teams. I think that's hurting our special teams as well, on top of losing guys on defense. I think, I think Howie's got to be smarter with that, because 6 teams interested in Christian Ellis, he leaves. I mean, it's just crazy. So I think Nolan Smith needs to cross-train at linebacker. And obviously at Sam linebacker, why not? He did it at Georgia. He's a freak athlete, man. What we saw from him in preseason, chasing down on a reverse on one of this, a fast receiver that can run a 4.3, 4.2. I mean, Nolan Smith's got it, man. It's just that as a pure defensive end right now, it's just not working for me. I think he needs another offseason with the Eagles. I just think he needs to just do a little bit more, and I think he's a big cross-train prospect. Line them both up at linebacker. I don't see why. Let him loose, man. Let him use his freak athletic ability instead of just being an edge rusher. And if you need to put him there as an edge rusher and the Eagles actually draft more linebackers that are high quality, or maybe sign a guy to some money, maybe, even though that probably won't happen, then you could. You always want to have guys that can move around the field. In case there's an injury, the Eagles aren't going to lose a beat defensively. The more hybrid players you have, and that can play both positions really well, the better off you're going to be. So definitely, whether it's Sidney Brown, whether it's Nolan Smith, I think Nolan Smith definitely has some high upside, but it's just not enough right now. He hasn't done little to nothing. And I wish, and I know he dealt with an injury before the season started, and into the season. I know that, it just hasn't looked great. Hasn't looked fantastic. Don't want him to look like a bust. Obviously, I got to give him another year to see what he could do. But I think there's got to be more promise into giving him more reps at linebacker, moving to defensive end, and kind of put him in the rotation as well if you can. So I think there's good things to say. But really, at the end of the day, I don't like what I'm hearing on both sides. When it comes to Nick, when it comes to Sean Desai, when it comes to BrianJohnson, I want to make 3 separate videos on this because, like I said, this is going to take forever to go over. Seattle, big game this week, Monday Night Football. The Eagles are going to be on national television. Will they embarrass themselves for the 3rd time? I don't know. Didn't like what I heard from Nick yesterday. Didn't like what I heard from Sean Desai, and I definitely didn't like what I heard from BrianJohnson the other day. A lot of PR statements, I just wonder if they have formed a pack where they're like, look, we want to give the media what they want, what they don't want to hear, and then behind the scenes we'll take care of what we need to take care of, because what I'm hearing is everything's staying the fucking same this week. Nick said, nope, I'm not going to stray away from what I'm doing. If it doesn't work out, I know this is going to work. Pretty much what he said the other day. And BrianJohnson is starting to blame the players for the Dallas game a little bit. Like, dude, shut your mouth. Like, yeah, we fumbled 3 times, but how about the other fucking weeks, bro? How about the other weeks where we can't get the run game going? The other 3 weeks where we're bombing the ball down the field. Oh, since the beginning of the season, we've been running Jalen Hurts to suicide health all season on these stupid QB draws. Answer that, BrianJohnson. there's a lot more than just 3 fumbles. Oh, it's easy just to put the players on the bus and say, oh, and when you fumble, when you do this, you don't. This isn't one game we're talking about. We've looked the exact same literally since week 1 of the season. Okay, but these last 2 weeks have caught up to you because this offense is predictable and the players are talking and you're running out of excuses now. This Monday night game against Seattle is crucial to a lot of aspects of just the name of the game of football, but this is jobs on the line. This is players. I mean, this is important. I mean, if you crumble a 10-3 team down to a one and done type playoff team, shame on all you guys. Shame on all of you guys when you had 4 games left on your schedule as of right now, and they play like shit, go into the playoffs and literally choke. Biggest downfall that I've ever seen. And coaches have to go. Even Nick. Because if Howie Roseman doesn't let go, Nick's got to let go. And if Howie Roseman knows that we need change here and we can't run this defensive scheme anymore, this is on Howie Roseman, but Nick had a lot of control this offseason depending on his hirings and what he wanted to run and how he had to approve of it, obviously. This has got to change. And from what I heard, I'm hoping it's smoke and mirrors. I hope it's just wanting other defenses like Seattle and the rest of the teams down the road to feel like, oh, this is going to be an easy game. Because this team is looking beatable right now. The Giants are literally licking their chops right now with literally Tommy Cutlets is going to walk into Philadelphia, a team that's literally 1 game outside the wild card. That the last 3 games are easy. They might not be as easy as everyone thinks now. And there are people going to say, we're 10-3. There's going to be people out there that do that. I respect it. But when I hear it too much, it's just like, dude, look how, if the Eagles lost by a couple points the last couple weeks, I wouldn't make a huge deal about it. But they got destroyed the last 2 weeks. There's concern here. There's reason for concern. Just because you get into the playoffs because of a record doesn't mean you're going to play well in the playoffs. Teams change down the road. Teams peak too early. Teams peak late at the right time. It just depends. The Eagles have never peaked. The Eagles have stayed still. They've took lateral steps every week. They've never taken a step forward throughout the season. They've done the same thing. Sidestep to sidestep to sidestep. They haven't taken a step forward. And this coaching staff is hurting more than the roster is. Roster is really not much of a concern. It's a little bit of a concern with certain positions, but I'm telling you right now, if you got an offense that can put 35, 40 plus points on any team right now, and you can't even do that, it's a problem. It's a big problem. So that's all I gotta say. Let me know what you guys think about Brian Johnson's comments, and what do you think is going to happen this week? How do you feel about Monday night against Seattle? And, talk about Sidney Brown, Nolan Smith, players that, what players have you actually liked this season that are promising or feel like that need more work and have promise later for the future down the road? You guys let me know. And I do appreciate everybody that's been supporting the videos, liking the videos, and commenting on every video. I do appreciate it so much. We just hit over 26,000 subscribers the other day, which is fantastic. And I want to appreciate everybody that's just been, supporting. And without you guys, this channel is nothing, and I don't take it for granted at all. You guys are fantastic. Without you guys, there's no me sitting here talking about this stuff. Otherwise, I'm talking to myself at this point. So you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Shakes up, follow slide. Peace out, guys. Peace.